Okay, so first thing I've done here is generate some pieces of card that I'll just a bit more into shot here. These are going to sort of sit like this. I just trimmed one as an example here. It's going to sort of sit between the sort of humps of the cord there. But before I sort of fix those in place, and you can see I've numbered them just so I know what bit of card is against what bit of the book. What I'm going to do is glue the boards to each other. So to do that, the very first thing I'm going to do, importantly, is protect the text block itself. Nice big sheet of paper in like this. The text block's really going to be under any great threat, but even so, it's good practice. And you're going to be that's actually a perfect fit, just about. In the back, just a precaution, really. Okay, so now that that's in place, I'm going to have to sort of retighten each of these afterwards anyway. But we're now in a position to actually glue this. Don't need to use a vast amount. First thing is, as you can see here, there's sort of a plastic laminate that was used in the manufacture here, which is going to prove not particularly absorbent. So really we just want enough to make the boards want to stick to each other. But without sort of things slathering. Obviously this is all going to be folded over with leather in due course anyway. So once they're together like this, I'm going to lift them all, give these one final check and tighten. What I'm going to do now is make sure that the board is exactly where I want it. I'm also going to adjust these so that the top edge and the fore edge here line up perfectly, which there, that's good. And also that I have a balanced margin at the top and the bottom of the book. And that's where I want the glue now to bite. I'm going to very gently lift the book over because I don't want the surfaces I've just glued to actually move with reference to one another. It's also a good opportunity just to make sure that the earlier lamination problems I had can also be addressed at this point. Same process. Lift up. Needs very little glue really because we're dealing with the plastic. So that's glue there. Same thing again. Just pull these guys through. Straight at the top there. Okay, and we want these to be loose enough that they sit in the right place. And just sit forward. And then, again, same process. Obviously bearing in mind that that's the bottom of the book, this is the top. So I want to make sure that these edges here are square. Okay. One final check. This glue is about to set. Yeah, it's looking ready now. Okay. All right. Now we're in a situation. Turn the book back. To put the card on. So the process I'm using here is to get the relevant piece of card, just put a fold in it so I know exactly where it wants to lie flat on the book. I can basically eyeball, go a little bit farther, here we go. I can then eyeball how much I need to take off top and bottom so that I'm not building a mound over the cord. So yeah, that's fine. A little bit of glue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to force a pin through both boards. This may, I suppose, leave a little bit of a hole on the very inside edge of the title page and so on. But it really won't be any detriment. So then what I'm doing is I'm feeding the card down. I want to make sure the orientation's right. And I've got the card nice and close to the spine. And I'm going to push one pin. That's it, gives a good lumbar puncture. There we go. Straight in. That's basically the method. I'll do it in a smaller way as well for the sort of headband and tailband sections. This also has the advantage of actually holding these boards in place while we glue. And then obviously I then have the same thing to do at the back here. And this will also be a good opportunity to address some of this lamination that happens. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glue here and there where I need to deal with some of the damage that these boards took when I was drilling. And this looks as though it's going to sit there quite nicely. This particular one, this one I did earlier. The rest of them I'm going to have to trim. But you get the basic idea. This is going to sit there like that. I've got good tension all around. The third pin all the way through. So we end up with this just nice fold of card like this. I took the decision in the end to put the card on top of the boards, not between. The reason I did that was I'm a little afraid that over time this could be a bit of a rough edge that could rub sort of against the inside of the leather and eventually slowly cause the leather to fail. So I want this card here just to keep the leather is sort of 0.5 millimeter separate from the edge of the canvas itself. And then, you know, it's basically the same basic process. So just trimming these edges. So, this one is just a little more. Oops, a little more again. I'm doing this at a slightly wonky angle. Okay, so that's basically going to be the process. We'll just work our way along the rest of these card sections until we're in a position where there's cards separating what will be, you know, sort of gluey wet leather from the main spine section, which has obviously already been glued with a soluble glue. So we wanted to keep those two separate. We don't want the leather sticking directly down onto the spine. Like so. Okay, so while the patient is here on the surgeon's table, as it were, I'm taking the opportunity just to measure out the usable rectangle for this gorgeous goatskin leather that I'm going to use for the restoration. So I'm basically just, I'm not anticipating being able to use any part of this leather for anything else here. So I'm just basically giving myself the maximum usable rectangle that I can. Which kind of is looking like this at this point. This really is gorgeous leather. Very, very impressed with it. Cost me $100. Well, I'm that impressed with this. I'm actually gonna, I've got the price here. I'm gonna plug the company that sold it me, because I think we need companies like that in business. So, okay, so let's have a go here and just trim this out. Now, I will say, Michaels do sell, you know, kind of reasonable leather that's used for crafts, but they only have basically a couple of types, you know, for sort of more economic restorations it's fine, but more important works, and I certainly classify this codex in that category. Certainly I would recommend having a look at Hollanders. They've got a really nice range of different leathers. There we go. Obviously, leather being a natural product, you never know quite what shape it's going to come in, so you know, you have to kind of, you know, the way the Navi do on Avatar, you have to kind of respect the animal that gave its life. You to have it. They all come in different shapes and sizes. And you always have some wastage in terms of getting to what they call the usable rectangle, which is what I'm doing here. But the staff were very helpful in terms of directing me to the piece that would actually work for this book. They actually did a really good job. So there we go. So there we have it. We now have a a really beautiful, usable rectangle for this book. So, you know, when I need to just be patient, let this dry fully, but once that's done, we'll be in a position to really glue this on and really make it look really fantastic and beautiful. What we're going to have to do first, of course, is wet it so that we get it to stretch a little bit and adapt to the size of these raised bands here, which are clearly enormous. So this leather's going to have to be really quite wet and put under a lot of tension to really force it to take the shape of the spine here. But nevertheless, I think this is going to end up very nice indeed. It's going to be a very beautiful book when it's all done. Once again, credit to the goat. Okay, so we're going to be putting this leather in a bath shortly, but we need to first think about the cuts that we're going to have to make. We're going to have relatively little time to actually glue the leather on and trim it once it's in situ, because it'll start to dry out relatively rapidly. So if we can make some cuts ahead of time, we should do that. So as you can see, we've got an extra, you know, there's basically a 2.5 inch excess top and bottom. And the issue we're going to face is if you actually measure from the point of the bottom band to the point where the board is, that's only about 1 inch, and we need to fold the leather over here on the spine underneath, and we can't do more than 1 inch because we'll hit this band here. So we're going to need to trim a section out of here and do the same at the top. So that's probably the first thing I'm going to do. So, and because I'm measuring from the center here, this is something I can do safely without, you know, having any distortion, because the leather itself will stretch when we soak it. So what I'm going to do is reduce this to about 1 inch across here, measured downward from the board. So basically I'm going to come in like this. That's about it there. I'll probably go a little further actually. Like that. Then go across. I'm going to basically do the same thing coming in from this side. And then go across. Go a little further here. Doesn't matter if this edge is a bit raggedy, it's getting folded under anyway. And the idea being that basically this edge will obviously be folded down and stuck, but this will be folded on itself at the end. See that? So we're going to do the same now at the top. Okay, that's good. So basically we'll end up with that's what I want. So basically, I don't need to worry about trimming this when the leather's wet and we're kind of racing to get everything adhered. So what we're going to have to do when we actually stick on the leather is we're going to have to do a relatively rapid trim at 45 degrees across here to the board. Now, this is quite easy. We're going to have to be moving relatively fast, and it's quite easy to get wrong. I don't want the board showing through because it's obviously a bright white. So I need enough sort of going across like this. So it'll probably end up being a sort of a little bit of leather there that's pinched. And then basically these will fold underneath and hopefully come pretty close to marrying up. So we'll have 4 corners to trim as we glue this into place. And then it'll be a matter of obviously bracing it so that it starts to contract and really sort of bite in here at the spine. We'll have this under high tension and it'll bite into the spine here and really start to get these raised bands showing through in a really nice way. So the next step is to put the leather into its bath. So while the leather's soaking, I've taken the opportunity just to bring the book downstairs. I'm just going to use this sandpaper here. Just want to smooth these edges and also just make sure that I've got a really nice got as it close to a straight edge as I can. Now this is only basically compressed card, so it's very fine wood fibre. So it kind of gives relatively easily, and it's just a nice opportunity to remove any really rough edges that might actually cause me, might cause a problem with the leather in the future, and start to actually poke a hole through, which wouldn't be good. There we go. Just this corner here is a little bit crowded really where it should be. Alright, that's pretty well where I wanted. So we've got a sort of smoother edge now. And okay, I think this book is ready for its close-up with this wet leather. Okay, so the leather's almost ready. I'm starting to gather the equipment I'm going to need to actually attach the leather. We have the ties and the shims. That's what we'll use to brace the leather afterwards and really make the leather shrink and take the shape of these raised bands. With plenty of extra paper, we've got an extra sheet here, a large sheet plus plenty of kitchen roll. The text box already protected, but it doesn't do harm to have a bit more. We also have a lot of glue and these guys that I'm going to use to basically clasp the leather around the corners as I get it in place, and a decent pair of scissors and a blunt knife so that we can sort of fold the leather into place and also trim the corners at the right time. The first thing I'm going to do is, because time's going to be limited, because the leather will be drying out, I really want to do as much work ahead of time as I can. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to soak the vast majority of the area of these boards that I can in glue, together with the sort of sort of card surfaces there on the spine. So I'm going to do that. This is going to need quite a lot of glue. You see, that's why I bought the school size of this glue from Staples. All right, here goes. Again, now we're really just doing painting and decorating. So if I get the vast majority of the area done now ahead of time, that means when we actually put the leather on, I'll be able to focus more on edges, corners, inside edges and so on, as I'm really sort of affixing the leather into place. I want to be careful here as well. I don't want to lift this up there. There we go. I will have to sort of put more on this edge momentarily, but for now that's okay. What I'm going to do as well is do the cardboard, but not, repeat, not the raised bands. The aim is those will always remain free from the leather, so the leather can flex when you open the covers of the book. Now the other side, so I'm going to just use this tape here as a prop so I don't go and stick the book to the table. It's going to happen a little bit. It's going to be a bit of gunk on the table, but whatever. Same process. This is where the surface of this canvas is really good, because it's just got this very even and sort of rough matte surface, so it's going to take the glue really nicely. I've had sort of trial and error with sort of trying to glue onto paper and so on and so forth, and end up with the paper underneath bubbling and so on with other restorations, whereas this, I'm just putting a lot of faith into the fact that just a very standard surface, albeit a very modern one, so I guess that bit's a bit inauthentic, but needs must. Okay. All right. This is as ready as I can sensibly get it. I'm now going to dry off the leather, bring it in, and do a relatively rapid attachment of the leather. Okay, so the ties are on. What I'm going to do is slide, now because the book is bigger than the shims by some distance, I'm going to have to sort of slide one over the other like this. So these shims won't go quite as far as I'd like, but well, I don't know, maybe they are big enough if I'm careful. Just by process of leverage, I'm going to make these ties tighter and tighter. put 6 on that side. And let's put 6 on this side. Also a good opportunity just to make sure everything's as straight as it can be. Six on that side. So as you can see, we're already starting to really bite into the leather. So as it dries overnight, and it will take overnight, there's a lot of water in this leather, it'll contract and really sort of start to bite around these beautiful raised bands here. So I'm gonna see if I can go for 8 instead of just 6. Let's see if I can do this without breaking the shims. That's what I'm talking about. That's 8 each side. There's a lot of tension now on these ties. Okay, we're going to let the book rest overnight. See how we do.